Colombia, a country which many only know because of its violent past, has been on my list since I went to South America for my first long-term trip in 2012. 6 years later, and with 5 weeks to spend, it was finally time to properly explore my country number 9 on the continent. Now, for the first part of the trip, I'll be traveling with my mate David to the historical city of Cartagena, some picturesque Caribbean islands,
Whew, that looks nice.
and to the city of Medellin, where we get to learn about the violent past and the transformation of the country.
A former property of Pablo Escobar.
After a few days in the capital Bogota, I'll be joined by my good friend Stefan to learn salsa and take on some outdoor adventures in Cali,
It's about 2,600 meters.
before heading up to Santa Marta, where we check out the most beautiful beaches, float down rivers and hikes through the mountains.
Coconut, fresh from the trees here.
Welcome to Exploring Colombia. Colombia is largely situated in the northwest of South America and shares a border to the northwest with Panama, to the east with Venezuela and Brazil, and to the south with Ecuador and Peru. Even though Bogota was my first stop in Colombia, I only went there to meet my buddy David, who you might remember from my Iran series last year. In Bogota, we hopped on a flight to Cartagena, as we were both in need for some sun after spending most of the winter in Europe.
Ready to rock and roll.
Welcome from Cartagena. We just arrived at our hostel, which has a rooftop jacuzzi, a little rooftop terrace. David is chilling over there. And this is the hostel, basically. To start things off here in Cartagena, we take part in a free tour to get an overview of the old town and all the things you need to see here in the city center.
The tour we joined took us to the old town and with that to the main side of the city. Cartagena is a major port, founded in 1533. It was strategically located between the Magdalena and Sinu rivers and became the main port for trade between Spain and its overseas empire, establishing its importance by the early 1540s. During the colonial era, it was a key port for the export of Peruvian silver to Spain and for the import of African slaves under the Asiento system. Nowadays, Cartagena has a population of about 1 million and is the 5th largest city in Colombia. In 1984, Cartagena's colonial walled city and fortress were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Next thing on our list is the Castillo San Felipe, but first we have to climb up to earn these views.
The Castillo San Felipe de Barajas is a fortress located on the hill of San Lazaro in a strategic location dominating approaches to the city by land or sea. It was built by the Spanish during the colonial era in 1536 and significantly expanded in 1657. Its name was given in honor of Philip IV of Spain. The castillo was built in a triangular shape on top of the hill, with 8 batteries and a garrison of 20 soldiers and 4 gunners. The fortification consists of a series of walls, wide at the base and narrow toward the parapet, forming a formidable pattern of bunkers.
Another cool thing to do here in Cartagena is to walk the old city wall, which is especially cool in the afternoon when you have the best light to take some awesome photographs. And this is also where you can see the contrast of the old city and the new. Cool spot.
The historic center of Cartagena is surrounded by altogether 11 kilometers of defensive walls. But we only walked half of it and were ready for a more relaxing activity after a long day of exploration.
And how to finish off an afternoon walk on the old city wall? At the Café del Mar, which is probably one of the best spots to watch the sunset. Alright, it's time some typical Caribbean dinner. So we came to La Mulata to have some ceviche.
La Mulata is one of only a few typical Caribbean restaurants in the Old Town, which still offer an authentic atmosphere and great local cuisine for fair prices. If you like fish, you will love this place.
Today we drove 1 hour up the coast from Cartagena to El Totumo. This is a volcano filled with hot mud, and we're basically here to take a bath in it. This volcano is 23 meters high and has a depth of 2,300 meters. So I mean not the mud, but volcano in general.
After that quite weird but unique experience, we went back to Cartagena to show you another part of town.
We're now walking through the neighborhood where we're staying. It's called Getsemani, and it's a really cool area. This is the up and coming neighborhood right next to the old town.
Getsemani was the area where our hostel was located and is home to many hotels, bars and restaurants. Over the past few years it has become Cartagena's hippest neighborhood and one of Latin America's newest hotspots, with plazas that were once the scene of drug dealing being reclaimed and old buildings being turned into boutique hotels. This is also where you can find another recommendable restaurant with good food and fair prices.
It's dinner time again, and we went to a restaurant in our neighborhood called Cocina de Pepina, and here we have some typical food from Cartagena. This time it is meat. Cartagena was nice, but now it's time to explore some Caribbean islands. And this is why we're headed to the Islas de Rosario today. So we take a boat here from the port, and then we spend 2 nights on a beautiful Caribbean island. Sweet! After a 1 hour boat ride, we arrived at Isla Grande at Paraiso Secreto, which means the secret paradise, and it truly is a paradise. The other house over there is where we're staying, and now we're gonna check out the rest of the island and of course the beach.
The really cool thing about Paraiso Secreto is that it is a hostel collective in what used to be the holiday home of the Emerald Mafia in the 70s. The 7 hostels are located in near identical former luxurious mansions. We stayed at the Golden Frog and really enjoyed the chilled atmosphere, but the closest mangrove-free beach from there is located a 10-minute walk at a tiny nearby restaurant named La Pola, which quickly became our regular dinner and hangout spot.
Even so, this island is called the Big Island, Isla Grande. It is not really that big. It's about a 40-minute walk to the furthest point. We're now on a little stroll, going to the capital city in the middle of the island and to the other beaches. We just made it to the big city, Orika. This is the capital of the island. That looks nice. After about 20 minutes of walking, we made it to the biggest beach on the island, Playa Libre. I think this is the perfect place to go for a swim. But of course you can also find places like this private beach club on this island, which is called Bora Bora, where you can relax, have some drinks, eat, and just spend the day chilling by the sea.
The next morning we had to get up super early in order to catch a local boat at 6 to bring us back to Cartagena, which turned out to be the worst choppy ride I had during my entire time in Colombia. But we made it safe to Cartagena.
We have some breakfast here in Cartagena, and then we take the bus, and then we take a moto taxi, and then we'll be in Rincón del Mar.
Getting to Rincón is a true adventure. First we crammed ourselves into a local bus to San Onofre, from where only a dirt road leads to the remote village of Rincón.
We arrived at San Onofre and now we're taking these moto taxis. The third stop for our time in Cartagena is actually a little fishing village 3 hours south of Cartagena, to get a taste of the local life and to be in a spot with way less tourists. And Rincón del Mar totally is a spot for this.
With its tranquil atmosphere and due to its location lack of tourists, Rincón quickly became one of our favorite spots in the area of Cartagena. The locals were super friendly, the prices for good food straight from the source were low, and the beach was simply perfect. With nobody trying to sell you souvenirs, this truly was a place to enjoy.
Today we're making a tour to the San Bernardo Islands, and one of these islands is a really special one because it's the most populated place on earth. It's called Islote and has about 493 inhabitants on a really small area. Next stop on our little island tour is Múcura Island. Really cool place, pretty green, super nice clear waters, great beaches. Just walk around for an hour and then head on to the next spot. And the third spot on this tour is the Isla Tintipán. Another beautiful island, crystal clear waters, perfect spot to go for a swim or to have a beer by the beach.
Coming up in the next episode is Medellin, where we get to see one of the most incredible panoramas in the world, and we'll learn more about the history and the transformation of Colombia. So make sure to subscribe to this channel to not miss upcoming episodes, leave a comment, and head over to my website for more tips and recommendations, including places to eat and places to stay. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.